Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here again. And in this video, I want to look at the chart of Winona Ryder, actress. This one is by request. And guys, don't forget to hit the like button. Really helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you have not already. All right. Share my screen. Okay. Winona Laura Horowitz, known as Winona Ryder. She's obviously an actress. She's been in a lot of movies, starting in the 90s. Let's see, she won a bunch of awards. Her debut film was called Lucas. And probably her most famous performance was in Beetlejuice. That's where she got famous. She was also in Heathers, Great Balls of Fire, blah, 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 Edward Scissorhands, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Reality Bites, a whole bunch of different movies. I'm not going to go through all of it. She's taken some breaks throughout the years, up and down. Her career tends to go up and down a bit. And a lot of her roles tend to be a little bit more dark, quirky. She was arrested for shoplifting at some point. She'll go over. She was in a relationship with Johnny Depp. She has struggles with anxiety and depression. Let's see. Her father's Jewish. She's half Jewish. Her mother, I guess, is Buddhist. Her father's an atheist religiously. Her family was, into media, writing, film, producing, publishing, all that. And they were friends with a lot of different celebrities, a lot of different people, her family. Timothy Leary was her godfather. Allen Ginsberg, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Philip K. Dick. She lived in a commune for a little while as a child. She read. She was very smart in school. She was bullied as a child for being an effeminate boy, or appearing like an effeminate boy. She's not an effeminate boy. She's a woman. She graduated high school with a 4.0 GPA. After Beetlejuice, it says here, it's like, oh, it's like the #1 movie. That's going to make things great at school, but it made things worse. They called me a witch. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, she had tons of movies. She's got a really, she's beautiful, but she also has a really kind of unique look and appearance and way of being, which I like her. I mean, I think it's very, she pulls it off really well, her roles. 2001, 2005 hiatus, career revival. So her career is going up and down, in and out. She plays some big roles and then sort of fades out of the scene and then comes back. And she's in Stranger Things, a lot of different movies and guest appearances here and there, all over the place. She dated Johnny Depp. She identifies as Jewish. She experienced anti-Semitism. She's been a victim of stalking. She credits her career to Tim Burton. She's involved with American Indian College since her 20s, which sends low-income Native Americans to universities. She dated Matt Damon, along with Johnny Depp. Soul Asylum band member Dave Turner. She's been in a relationship with Scott McKinley, Han, whoever that is. She was active in. She offered an award for a kidnapped child who later was found dead. And yeah. So she did a documentary too about child trafficking, which is huge in Hollywood. They're all like demonic, satanic pedophiles. Not all of them, but a lot of them, most of them. Including Johnny Depp, by the way. So he's definitely not innocent. And I have no idea whether, what level of involvement Winona Ryder has. I mean, sometimes they put up a front, like Ashton Kutcher is all concerned about the kids, but he's as far as I know, he's part of it. Like it's just a front, like he's all like, oh, we gotta save the kids, and then behind the scenes, he's like one of them, pedophile, child trafficker, blood drinker. She was arrested for shoplifting, accused of stealing $5,500 worth of clothes and accessories from Saks Fifth Avenue. And it was a whole big thing. And she got charged and she got fined. And she was accused of using drugs during the trial, including oxycodone, diazepam, Vicodin, without a valid prescription. She was convicted of grand theft. She had to go to drug counseling, huge fine, community service, 480 hours of community service, probation as well. And she was clinically depressed, and there was a quack doctor that gave her all these drugs. So anyway, it's interesting. Let's look at her astrology. Okay. First of all, Scorpio sun, 11th house, 12th whole sign house. So it's 11th, 12th, but Scorpio sun. So it's very dark, right? Her basic personality is Scorpio hidden 11th and 12th. 11th for groups and networks, career success. 11th is a very good house for general success. And, they say like, if you have a strong 11th house, you obtain your hopes and wishes and dreams in this life. I don't know if that's necessarily true. It probably depends on the overall status of your career, whether your career is going to be successful or not. I think that's more accurate. But it does also helps a person to think about big picture, society, social issues, and even bigger, like concern for outer space and things like that. It expands the view, the perception of the mind, and makes a person think very big. Scorpio obviously is very dark. That's why she does great in these darker movies: Beetlejuice, Dracula, Stranger Things, Heathers. In Heathers, she was like one of these dark teenagers who kills off the popular teenager. I don't know, weird plot, but she did well with it. So that's all very Scorpionic. 12th house even. 12th house is, you'll see a lot of 12th house activation for actors, actresses, because it brings out not only the creativity but the alter ego, right? You get the reflection. And then these 12th housers, they don't even know who they are a lot of times. So they can just put on any costume they want, any front. Underneath they're very even a mystery to themselves to a large degree in the 12th house planets. Right. So there's this Scorpio sun, 11th, 12th house. It's actually really nicely trine with the moon, and that's quite good. This gives her a lot of depth of feeling. The Pisces moon, right? water, Pisces and Scorpio. So depth of feeling, she can really bring in that darker element. Scorpio and Pisces, they're in harmony. Well, that's really quite good. Sun and moon in good, very good balance with each other. This is a waxing moon, so it's getting brighter. It's in the third house of expression, communication, media. So again, that's going to be excellent for acting, creativity, being very expressive communicator, right? Now it does have both the sun and the moon have this difficult aspect to Saturn. Moon has the square. Moon's part of a T square with Jupiter, which is the ascendant lord. Jupiter is very strong in Sagittarius, but the T square with the moon and Saturn, and then Saturn being in conjunct the sun, brings in a lot of fear, a lot of negativity, a lot of doubt, anxiety, depression, especially because Jupiter's involved. Jupiter's good, but still, with the moon and this Saturn has a lot of bad aspects, so it's doing a number on her. It does tend to even accentuate the darkness, because Saturn is quite dark and heavy. But for depression, anxiety, mental health issues, not great. Also because the Saturn is in Gemini, so it's affecting the mind, the intellect. It's retrograde. Retrograde Saturn definitely likes to flout the law. Wants to go against the law, because Saturn's the law. Retrograde is going against the grain, doing things in different ways, not really going along with the program. It wants to go against the program, whatever the program is. That's what a retrograde wants to do. It's in the sixth house, which will affect her health, but probably more mental health, because it's Gemini, and then Mercury is also in the Scorpio in the 12th house cusp, right? So definitely the subconscious, the intellect, the mind. It's going to be, she's going to have troubles there. A lot of, nerve issues, mental health issues, depression, anxiety, all that. Saturn in the sixth will, it's sixth, seventh, because it's pretty close to the seventh. So there is a lot of seventh house influence, but it's also bringing in sixth house as well. And so, a need to work hard in areas of service, competition. Saturn opposite Jupiter in general, but when we're talking about 6th, 12th, Saturn, Jupiter is very close to the ascendant, and Saturn's very close to the descendant, but it's still bringing in a bit of 6th, 12th activity. So, and Jupiter and opposite Saturn anyway have to do with the law. So there is law issues here, right? We could see that, run-ins with the law. She's breaking the law at times. She's having problems with the law. Both Saturn and Jupiter have to do with the law, opposition, especially with Jupiter ruling the ascendant. This is her, this is the law. So opposition towards the law, breaking the law, but also service to others, working hard to help other people in general. Yes. Saturn, if we're looking at Saturn in the 7th, that would be good for relationships in general, good for mature, stable, long-lasting relationships. So, initially it might deny relationships because Saturn is restrictive. And she did, when she was dated Johnny Depp, I think she was not even 18 yet, like 17, so she got a young start, right? But, as she gets older, as she matures, this will give her much more stable, steady relationships, mature, balanced. And Saturn's okay in Gemini because it is the daytime triplicity ruler of air signs. So it does have some dignity in Gemini. It creates very good intellect. Saturn in Gemini, good for science, good for um, anything, any studious type uh, um, subjects. Yeah, intellectual type. Uh, what else? The moon is ruling the eighth house, which is interesting because uh, eighth house is what you'd look to for theft mostly. I mean, 12th house for secrecy, things like that, yeah. But eighth house deals with other people's resources, other people's money, other people's resources. So when we're talking about theft, largely I would look to the eighth house. So the eighth house ruler is Moon. Moon obviously has the square from Jupiter in the first and Saturn in retrograde in Gemini. And Moon itself is in the third house. So hands, skills of the hands, eighth house, other people's resources, being disposited by Jupiter in the first 12th. So hidden, but the self, right? So you can see that. Like, I wouldn't say that she's like a clinical, like a professional thief, like somebody who's like has to steal as a matter of their psychology, you know. They're, what is it, kleptomaniac, right? I wouldn't say that, but definitely if she's more mentally off balance, then stealing is especially with South Node in the eighth quadrant. It's in the ninth whole sign house, but eighth quadrant, right, in Leo. So it's still bringing in an eighth house element here. Mostly I would consider eighth house being, you know, quadrant and whole sign aligned. So this small section here would be fully eighth house. And there's nothing in there, but Moon does represent that. And Moon has two squares against it as part of a T-square. So that's, you know, and that's also why her career, both the Scorpio influence, and Scorpio, by the way, similarly, you know, Mercury in Scorpio, Sun in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, you know, still has that quality, that other people's resources, money. So we're still talking about the same thing here. And the Sun does have the inconjunct Saturn. Venus is definitely not in good dignity in Scorpio, although Venus is a it is a triplicity ruler of water sign, so it does have some dignity. But again, Scorpio, 12th house, Venus, Mercury, you know, very deep, very dark, heavy for the, you know, Venus is also ruling the sixth house. So health, conflict, yeah, definitely her mind, her mental health, but also like the, you know, the other people's shared resources. So when her mental health is low, then she's definitely going to turn towards things like drugs, possibly alcohol, and, you know, theft, right? Obviously. But what was I going to say? Yeah, the 12th house for acting is very, very good, very strong. And it's also like you can see this whole stellium here. I mean, I don't know if you call this a stellium, but this whole grouping of planets, Scorpio to Sag, it's flowing into the ascendant. So she's very iconic, right? She has a Sagittarius ascendant with Jupiter in Sagittarius within a few degrees from the ascendant. And this is very strong, right? And this is probably one of the main things that really makes Winona Ryder right here. Jupiter in Sagittarius, where it's in domicile, incredibly strong, on the angle, on the ascendant, in Sagittarius, right? And Jupiter conjunct the ascendant anyway is very strong. So this is an extremely strong Jupiter, right? So Jupiter ruling, it's not ruling a cusp, but it is ruling the fourth whole sign house and the majority of the third quadrant. So third, fourth, you know, third, fourth signification in the first. And that makes sense if you consider that she had early success as a teen. She was already famous as a teenager. Her first two movies, Beetlejuice, she was a teenager in Beetlejuice, and I think probably Heathers, and the first one, what was it? I don't remember, but her first movie was even, still teen. So early success, right? And we can also see that with South Node in Leo. It's definitely in the eighth house, eighth quadrant, but ninth whole sign house. So bringing in a lot of like dark hidden qualities. And this, you could, if you look at the success of her movies, not only her hiatus, her taking off time, but not all her movies were a success. A lot of her movies were like Heathers was a more of a cult classic. It did not have huge box office success. Like, she's not the biggest box office star. She had, because there's the strong eighth house Scorpio element, where she's got 3 planets in Scorpio, including Sun, Mercury, and Venus. Moon is in Pisces, but Moon's ruling the eighth house, right? And then South Node in the eighth quadrant. So she does have this heavy scorpionic eighth house quality. And then Pluto is pretty much conjunct her MC as well. So she's going up and down, right? And she plays dark roles really well. She should definitely stick to those dark, heavy roles, those scorpionic eighth house roles. Should play that really well. But obviously she's not going to have tremendous success in all her movies. Some will not be box office smashes. Most of them won't be. They'll be more like cult classic, like hidden, like eighth house, eighth house Scorpio quality. But her success really is largely dependent on this Jupiter in Sagittarius, third, fourth, right? Early childhood and third house, meaning communications. That's very, very strong. And it is part of this grand fire trine with Chiron and South Node. So it's not like, this is not like the best grand trine I've seen, because Chiron is still minor. It's good that there's not, there's only one bad aspect with Chiron, that's to Mars, which probably increases her anxiety. Mars in Aquarius, semi-square Chiron. But it's good that Chiron is not badly aspected overall. And South Node, this was more active when she was young, obviously, because South Node, right? She's already into her North Node, which is second house, third quadrant, but third whole sign house, but second quadrant. So either one is good for acting. Second house for voice, third house for expression, communication, right? But this grand fire trine is not being activated. So there was some more success, perchance. It's, maybe 60-40, I would say. When she was younger, she might have had a bit more, career success because the Leo and the grand fire trine. But in any case, either way, it's, North Node in second quadrant, third whole sign house, it's still quite good. Let's see here. Mercury is ruling the 7th house and the 10th whole sign house. So that's going into her 12th house. So this is foreign relationships. I'm not sure if her relationships qualify as foreign, but typically that's how, when 7th Lord is in the 12th, that's how I would interpret it. Otherwise, hidden secret relationships, scorpionic, no less. And also Mercury and Scorpio will add to that depression, because Mercury is the intellect. But Mercury and Venus together conjunct is excellent for anything creative, artistic. You often see that with musicians, Mercury and Venus together. But it's going to help out her acting a lot, especially in the 12th house. It's going to make her much more creative, and her personalities, her acting, her alter egos are going to have this excuse me, very expressive, very aesthetic. Mercury and Venus together, that this artistic, creative quality, right? This really helps out her acting a lot. Venus is ruling the MC and the 6th house. So Venus in the 12th, so acting, MC in the 12th, acting, foreign things, isolation, and the 6th house, which I already mentioned, being in Scorpio, so that's in the 12th house, so that's heavy. That is depressive, right? Because it's very watery, right? It probably gives her a strong spiritual connection, a lot of empathy, especially with Jupiter being in really good dignity here. That's the main thing. But Moon in Pisces ruling the 8th house. I mean, not that it's ruling the 8th, that's in Pisces mainly. That gives her a lot of compassion, empathy towards others. So yeah, I mean, I think she is quite charitable and caring, and generally is I would bet that she's a good person. I haven't really. What I mean by that is that there's a lot of people in Hollywood, they act good, but they're really quite evil and disturbed and corrupt by their money and power. I don't think, because she has this very strong Jupiter here and the water influence, I think she's very empathetic and compassionate person, and I think she probably has a very good connection to spirituality and God. Neptune also in Sagittarius conjuncting the Jupiter, so that again is bringing her mind, her philosophy, I mean, it's great for acting, right? It's great for the arts, for anything like that, for spirituality, and as well conjunct the Jupiter and Sagittarius. So that's just adding to her view. It's making it more expansive, more spiritually oriented or sensitive. So I would expect her to be quite spiritually aware, at least relative to the average state of Hollywood consciousness, which is quite low because of the corruption and power. They don't have to struggle. They're rich. They're famous. People just hang on every word they say. So it's that absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's the way it works. When people have too much money, too much wealth, too much fame, too much love, they're very easily corrupted. That's why Hollywood is just such a disgusting den of satanic, evil, corrupt, horrible people. Right. In her 10th house, we have Pluto and Uranus. So her career, her public image is going to be both, very powerful and unique, independent. She's going to play those quirky roles, not only dark, but different as well, just unusual. That's the Uranus. And Pluto is just adding to this already very strong scorpionic, dark kind of theme, right? All the things already mentioned. I don't need to go over all the different dark roles that she tends to play, but it's very, it's just strongly written all over her chart with the Scorpio and the moon ruling the 8th house and Pluto conjunct the MC. Definitely dark, quirky roles are her bag, her cup of tea. But powerful career, And, definitely she's not like the kind of person who's going to be mediocre. Who's just going to do your average acting roles. She's going to stand out. She's going to be unique. She's going to be her own thing. And, I respect her for that. Absolutely. Mars is in Aquarius. And so this is probably having to do, and I already mentioned the semi-square to Chiron. This probably adds a lot to her anxiety. Aquarius in general is a sign of potential trauma, but at least kind of nervous system nervousness, as well as Gemini too. But let's see, Saturn is ruling the IC, so the fourth quadrant, fifth whole sign house, and dispositing her Sun, Mercury, and Venus, and the 12th quadrant. So this is very creative because it's ruling the 12th and the fifth whole sign, but fourth, fifth, 12th, right? In the third. And that's clearly the third because it's third quadrant, third whole sign house. So her expression is becoming very Martian. It's very creative expression because the 12th and 5th influence, and very quirky, unique in Aquarius, very different. What else? But definitely, picking up the difficult aspect to Chiron. So there's some issues, painful issues with this Mars in Aquarius relating to anxiety and nervousness and mental agitation in general, you could say. Yes, and as a childhood, the bullying that she received. Chiron clearly in the fourth house, or at least fourth quadrant, conjunct the IC. So definitely issues there. And then Mars, often for women, Mars is projected outside into experience. Not always, but it can be, definitely. So Mars for women can be, in difficult aspect, can be bullying. And so here you can see that Chiron is often the outcast, the reject, right? So let's see what else. North node in the second house, obviously good for voice, for speaking, for acting, right? And she could get more speaking roles like narration, documentary types where she's narrating, that sort of thing. Anything involving the voice. I mean, of course, actors very often have strong second houses. And Saturn is ruling her second and third house. And it's, basically coming up on the seventh house. So that's good. Conjuncting the descendant is bringing out the second and third. So voice and expression, communication coming out to the masses in Gemini. So that's quite good for acting. What else? This T square where you saw. This is iconic, especially with, like I said, Jupiter and Sag conjunct the ascendant is extremely strong, and that's her really biggest strength. But also these planets, like a waterfall, like a cascade, are falling into her ascendant. So this is much more iconic. This is giving her. So I would say, yeah, definitely she has acting skills, but she also has a very iconic chart that there's these iconic people. They don't need to be as talented because their talent is, they are the talent. They're being, they exude, they project a certain kind of image that is very unique and strong and powerful. And she has that 12th house creativity. So it's mixed with Winona Ryder. She has the iconic quality as well as the creative talent and expression, both. Very powerful career. So overall, like, she's going to go up and down. Her career is going to go through that scorpionic 8th house plutonic death phase and then come out again, rebirth. She's going to reinvent herself constantly. She's going to suffer, mental health problems because everything else I said, mostly the heavy water influence, but then the difficult aspects to Saturn, Moon ruling the 8th house, and this T squared, the Jupiter. But generally, with such a strong Jupiter, she's always going to pull out of it, right? She's always going to come back and be all right. So she's definitely not nearly as bad as some certain other people. Although North Node in Aquarius is activating this Saturn, so I think, yeah, difficult to say, but probably overall the second half of her life is going to be a bit more challenged than the first half, although everyone gets better as they get older, usually. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but definitely early success, early acting career success, and continued success as she gets older, but maybe not quite as strong in the second half. Let's just take a look at her draconic chart. Again, strong 12th house activity here with the Pluto and MC. Pluto in Scorpio over right in between the Mercury and Venus. So that's, adding a lot of power, a lot of depth and power and weight to this Mercury Venus. So, just reinforcing this very dark theme that Winona Ryder has. And she'll always just have this darkness to her that does really, really well with those kind of roles, the darker roles, heavier kind of movies that are quirky at the same time and lighthearted, not like really like evil, mean, like Jupiter protects her from the really darkness, but still it's like light and dark combined. And that's kind of, I think, very likable about Winona Ryder, the way she can balance those two halves. There's this very powerful Jupiter, which is, religion, philosophy, God, right? Expansiveness, but great benefic, and then the heavy darkness. Uranus is also in Sag in the draconic chart, coming into her ascendant. So that's going to make her much more independent, unique, different, quirky, shocking. Yeah. Sun in Sag in the first house, and that's, very prominent for anyone who has that iconic role, to play. Just makes her more iconic. Very strong Capricorn stellium. None of these planets do excellent in Capricorn. Jupiter, in fact, does not do well in Capricorn. It is debilitated, but nonetheless, for an actress having second house activation, that's very prominent. That's very, something that we would want to see and often do. What else? Mars and Moon are in Aries. So obviously Mars is in domicile in Aries, and this is in the 4th quadrant, right? Approaching the 5th house, especially Moon. Moon is conjunct the 5th cusp. But Mars and Moon together in Aries is not a great combination because generally speaking, for a man, it can mean abuse towards women. For a woman, it can mean attackers, abuse against her, because Moon is feminine, Mars is masculine. Mars is very strong in Aries, aggressive, heavy. And so, especially as a child, she did attract male abuse, probably male and female, but definitely abuse, right? She was an outcast. She was made fun of. I don't know why. She's gorgeous and she's famous and popular, and I would think everyone would want to be her friend. Apparently not. Yeah, this is abusive in the area of childhood, and as well as, if we're talking about 5th house, then romance, and education, school, things like that. But Mars and Moon in the 5th house will make her quite, very strong as an actress. If we're looking at fifth house, that would be sort of performance, being on stage, entertainment, fun and games. Then it's a pretty forceful combination. It is draconic, so it's we're not going to see it outright, but it still has some influence. Chiron in the sixth house in Gemini, definitely for mental health issues. Gemini being the intellect, nervous system. There's that relates to that. Saturn in Cancer on the eighth house. Yeah, definitely not good, because Saturn rules Capricorn, so it's in detriment here in the eighth house. And remember, eighth house is, death and rebirth and crisis and shared resources. So when it's not good dignity, that can mean theft. It can also indicate somebody who, because eighth house is a house of other, sixth, seventh, eighth are other houses, right? This can mean giving to others, right? Because these planets can act in two different ways, obviously. One can be the pure poor dignity of taking. The other can be the poor dignity of the other, where we give to the other, if that makes sense. Like, oftentimes you'll see planets in poor dignity in the seventh house if there's a counselor or a healer or a doctor or somebody who's healing sick people, because then they're attracting they're attracting poor dignity people to them. So it's not always negative. Sometimes you can see poor dignity planets playing out really well. And so here, this can be like charity towards others, right? So there's both halves. Like, obviously she was arrested for shoplifting, but she's also very charitable, gives to Native Americans to go to college, and, wants to protect the child trafficking, things like that. Right. So it's not always one way. It's not just like, oh, I have a planet in poor dignity, wherever it is. It doesn't necessarily have to be all bad. It can be bad until you learn how to use it in a good way. And they all have that. All the planets in poor dignity in a house will have its very positive uses. South node it's always in Libra, south in 0 degrees Libra in the draconic, but it's conjunct the MC here. So early childhood success again, right? Career success, very prominent. So that's it for her draconic chart. And that's pretty much it for her whole chart. Yeah. So that's Winona Ryder. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please press the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. And book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com. My email address is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And that is it for now. Thanks. Bye.